Good morning, folks. One of the benefits of preaching consecutively through a book of the Bible is that in one's preparation, one has to deal with passages that maybe one has never really considered in the past. Maybe passages and verses that a person may know well, but doesn't really understand. And so, as a pastor, I am forced at times to read and study and dig deeper into texts in order to be better competent to explain them. This has been my experience with the next section of Psalm 46 that we come to this morning, verses 4 to 7. I have read and I have sung verse 4 many times, but up until now, I don't know that I could have given a satisfying explanation of what it actually meant. And so preparing for today's devotional has been very informative and helpful for myself. Verse 4 reads as follows in the English Standard Version translation. There is a river whose streams make glad the city of God, the holy habitation of the Most High. Now, if you were to go to Isaiah chapter 8 and read verses 6 to 8, you would see that the prophet is there speaking about the mighty, turbulent waters of the great rivers, the rivers Euphrates and the Tigris. Those are the rivers to which he is referring in that passage. And those mighty, rushing, turbulent rivers are symbolic of the power of the great nations of the world, and specifically the power of Assyria, the dominant world power at that time. It's pictured as a rushing, mighty water. Assyria rushing upon all their enemies and overflowing them, overpowering them. Now, keep that in mind when you come to verse 4 of this psalm. In complete contrast to that, the city of God is depicted as having a quiet, slow-flowing, gentle stream. Poetically, the psalmist is saying, look at the contrast. The mighty, powerful, world-dominating governments and armies. But look at us. We are so insignificant when compared to our enemies. One commentator, Leupold, says of these things, the contrast, he says, trivial as it seems in contrast with the mighty Euphrates and Tigris, this stream symbolizes the insignificant appearance of the kingdom of God in the eyes of the world. The kingdom of God, the true church, is a mere trickle of a stream compared to the mighty rushing waters of the great Euphrates River, symbolic of the world powers of today. But look at verse 4 again. What the world despises makes the people of God happy. There is a river whose streams make glad the city of God, the holy inhabitants of the Most High. God's city has a quiet confidence and sense of serenity, even when surrounded by worldly powers. What the world despises, such a small stream, makes the people of God happy. And you have to ask why? Why such joy and happiness? Verse 5 answers that question. God is in the midst of her. She shall not be moved. God's presence with her and God's power for her make her invincible. Yes, the mighty nations may attack her, as indeed Sennacherib and the Assyrian army did attack Jerusalem, literally. But God will help her. You remember how the inhabitants of Jerusalem were surrounded by Sennacherib and his mighty Assyrian army. Escape seemed totally impossible, and yet they got up one morning, looked out over the battlements, and they saw the Assyrian army was gone, scattered. God will help her when morning dawns. And so the psalmist writes with a note of confidence. And we see that again in verse 7. The Lord of hosts is with us. The God of Jacob is our fortress. That title, the Lord of hosts, refers to the Lord who governs the hosts of heaven, God's powerful, innumerable, almighty, angelic army. Jerusalem wasn't their fortress. God was their fortress. Like God's people then, the church today is like a very small stream when compared to the mighty, powerful, thunderous rivers of the powers and governments and religions of this world. The raging power of Islam, of Hinduism, the raging river of materialism, of atheism, of humanism, all these mighty, powerful rivers, and the church is like a mere trickle of a stream. But this stream makes the church glad, because it is a life-giving stream. The stream of God's truth that feeds and nurtures and waters and preserves the church. And more than that, God is in the midst of the church. He has been, and he always will be, the help of the church. And as world powers surround us and world-shaking events take place, the church will not fear. Why? Because the Lord of hosts is with us. The God of Jacob is our fortress. Brethren, with all the events that are taking place in the world in these days, the things that are happening in the Middle East, Iran, the Russia-Ukraine conflict, let us, God's people, not fear, because the Lord of hosts is with us. The God of Jacob is our fortress. Have a great day.